Welcome to K6 Wellness Revolution, where we believe health is worth fighting for. This podcast focuses on all things related to natural health, wellness, and vibrant living. We know your time is valuable, and I'm honored that you're spending some of it here. So get ready, because the Wellness Revolution starts right now. Welcome back to the K6 Wellness Revolution podcast. I'm Sharon, traditional naturopath and family nurse practitioner at K6 Wellness Center in Dallas, Texas, where we blend trusted expertise, compassionate care, and a passion for helping you achieve optimal health. Because wellness isn't just a goal, it is a revolution. And today we are focusing on fasting. I'm so excited to be joined by Elena again. We missed you, Elena.
I'm back.
Yay! And today, so we're going to talk about fasting. Because with fasting, we can really get into how we're changing biology. This is really a prime example. It's a timeless practice. This is so old. It's mentioned in the Bible, and it really does help to change biology. This is not us chasing trends or fad diets. Having been in the naturopathic space for over 20 years now, we've seen the advent of so many fads and the cycling through of lots and lots of practices, supplements, ideas. There are a lot of beneficial practices, and I think we're mainly limited by hours in the day. Like, what can I do today? Well, I only have this many minutes or this much time before I have to go to work or go to bed. But today we're so excited to just really dive into fasting, and it's been so instrumental in both of our journeys. And so we're going to both kind of weigh in on things. And I think, Elena, what's fun to me is just like everything else, we get tickled because we're so different. You're at one end of the spectrum and I'm at the other end.
Always.
And like everything. Yeah. And I think so many times fasting is often oversimplified, or it gets pushed to the extreme. And it depends on who you ask, right? Or who you're talking to. And something that kind of irks me, especially with talking to experts, is that they try to spin certain things, and fasting is one of them. But they'll say, oh, well, you can't fast. You have to have medical supervision. And it bugs me because it's a perspective that assumes, number one, the worst of people as a starting point. And it's kind of like how childbirth gets treated in Western medicine. And we just assume the worst of pregnant women and women in labor, oh, this is a medical procedure. And so I won't chase that to its very end. But today in our podcast, we are not going to assume the worst of people, but we are going to explain what fasting actually does. We're going to discuss some different types of fasting, and we're going to help you, our listeners, understand what fasting is, what it is not, and who it's for and who it is not for. Now, that being said, please understand that this episode is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Wink, wink. That's not true. It's educational entertainment. So let's start discussing fasting. Now, like many practices, supplements, treatments, therapies, fasting is a strategic tool, but it's not a requirement for health. So if you can't fast, it doesn't mean you can't be healthy, right?
Right. And if you think you can't fast, I am here as the poster child of impossible fasting, because anyone who knows me knows that I can't skip a meal. And yet I've had some very successful fasting experiences in my life. And that's why I'm so excited to talk about fasting. we've had some great topics on our podcast, but nothing hits home for me like fasting because it has truly changed my life. And I know there's a lot of people who have had some similar experiences, but you might also, to our listeners, you might be some of those people thinking, oh, that's not for me. Maybe I'll listen because it might be interesting. I mean, we hope we're a little bit interesting, but maybe it's not for you. I'm here to tell you there is a way to make some type of fasting work for you. But you don't want to just jump in and try and do something extreme. Like you said, Sharon, people either oversimplify it or overcomplicate it. And it really doesn't have to be either of those things. But when it comes to fasting, let me just say, once you work up to fasting, you're going to feel like you can do anything. Because what's the longest you've fasted? Before we go into all the types, what's the longest you've fasted?
14 days.
Okay. And you beat me there, but it's pretty impressive to me that I went 11 days on water once. I mean, I'm still impressed with myself. I have triathlete, Ironman siblings that, I'm not comparing it to that. However, I've dared them to go 3 days without eating and they can't do it. So, hey, I'm not an Iron woman, but I can fast. And it just changes your perspective on life. That's the beautiful thing. And of course, the one I'm referring to is a water fast. I think you did a water fast as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the only kind, because I think that's the misconception. People think, oh, if I'm going to fast, it has to be just water. Well, that's one way to do it. But there are so many different ways, and we will go into that. I know, we've got a fun little plan here to talk about all the different ones, but I think it's important to just start our listeners with why we fast, what happens before we go into the different types. Because, like you said too, people have been doing this forever. There's still a lot of religions that incorporate fasting. And I feel like in the modern world, we've just kind of dismissed this as a tool. And when you look at a world where everything's so expensive, this is such a feasible, affordable goal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody fasts. What's the first meal of the day?
Yeah, exactly. Break that fast. And so that's a good point. People think they can't. You're doing it every time you go to sleep and wake up. But there's just different parameters we can work with to make it a longer fast, a deeper fast. Because, most people are eating from waking until bedtime. And when you are always doing that and shortening that window that you aren't eating when you're sleeping, you could be overeating. And I think a lot of people do. We don't need to eat as much as we do. We don't need to eat from sunup to sundown, because when you have that constant fuel available, it reduces your metabolic flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
When you're fasting, that's an intentional break that allows the body to shift gears. It makes the body say, hey, you know what? Let's use what we've got. Let's not release more insulin than is needed. Let's take a break. When you're fasting and you take longer breaks between when you're eating, that's going to allow your body to lower the baseline insulin levels. And you're also going to improve fat utilization. And you're going to have better hormone signaling that's going to favor repair over storage. So fasting is a great ancient tool to bring into the modern world of fast and nonstop.
For sure. And the thing is, like, when you're fasting, I think something that we lose sight of is the rest that it gives an overstressed or overworked digestive system. So for people who have a lot of digestive stress, or people who have pain every time they eat, or they struggle with constipation or diarrhea, things that you might not say, oh yeah, I bet if I took a break from eating, this will get better. When you in fact take a break from eating, you're giving your digestive system a vacation. And that can be really, really valuable for repair. Just rest and repair, right? Just like when we sleep, what happens? Rest and repair. When we stop eating, we get some rest and repair. Energy can be redirected to maintenance and repair. It doesn't mean that all the acid in your stomach just continues to churn and burn and you're going to get an ulcer. That's not really what happens necessarily.
Right.
But your body will, if you have excess fat stores, your body will eventually start burning those. Now, some people, depending on multiple factors, can take longer to get there, right? And that's called ketosis, when your body switches from burning carbohydrates to burning fat or ketones. It can take a little longer. It takes me a while to get there, but that will happen. But you do get this rest. And I
Right.
I think it takes, I don't know, for me, it takes 3 days to stop being hungry.
Oh my goodness, every time. The hunger is strong, but then after day 3, it's just like, oh, I can keep going.
Yeah.
And you know, back to your point though, what you're saying, just giving the digestive system a rest. That's why it doesn't even have to be a strict water fast. There's a lot
Yeah.
of ways to give your digestive system a break, just from breaking down the food, the fiber, the fat, just merely giving it a rest.
Yeah. And, that is something like you look at people who have diverticulitis or
Mhm.
diverticulosis. What happens to them? They get put in the hospital and they get nothing by mouth, NPO. You're on digestive rest. So
Yeah.
that's rough. And then you had mentioned too, like your insulin levels drop, and your insulin being a hormone that comes from your pancreas, right? That's going to go down because you're not circulating sugar now. So you don't need insulin. But there are other hormone shifts that happen, like your growth hormone is going to increase. Well, that's going to go up because it's going to help your body preserve some muscle mass because you don't want to burn muscle. But that also helps promote fat burning for energy. So it's going to help promote a little ketosis. Also, your cortisol levels are going to tend to rise.
If you're doing it the right way.
Yes, if you're doing it the right way. And if you're in
And
a
you don't want to
state,
over. You don't want to overrise that cortisol.
true, true. Especially like if you're doing a prolonged fast, it can help mobilize those energy stores when your cortisol levels go up, and that would then of course increase blood sugar. But also your thyroid hormone, those levels, your T3 and T4, those will decrease, especially your T3, which is your more bioactive thyroid hormone. And that is an energy saving mechanism by your body because it's going to kind of shut down your metabolism, right? And now your body's not going to produce so much heat. Your body's going, okay, go sit down in the corner and take a rest because you know what? You're not taking in any calories, so you don't need to be burning any energy. But that's the thing, when you do a fast, it's important to rest. And I think we're going to get into that because depending on the fast that you're doing, different levels of activity are going to be better or not so great, not tolerated as well.
Right.
But then, your hunger hormone, ghrelin, that level, of course, is going to go up for
And
a
it's different
while.
for everyone because I know when
Yeah.
I did my 11-day water fast, I was in my 20s. And you know me, Sharon, you've known me for a long time. Back then, I ate so much. I was always hungry. And I'll be honest, in that 11-day fast, my hunger never left. I felt
Yeah.
lied to because I was like, where's
I
the
remember
shut off signal? It's not happening.
I
But it
was,
happens now.
yeah, I was worried for you because Elena used to eat probably 6,000 calories a
Yeah.
day.
No joke.
And I remember going, oh my gosh, how is she going to fast past one meal? This is not going to end well.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing was I remember back to that time, I was hungry constantly,
Mm-hmm.
but my blood sugar was stable. I
Yeah.
was not feeling hypoglycemic like I do when I skip a meal.
Yeah.
The body did shift into survival mode, of course, because it was starving, but there's this calmness that comes. You have energy, but you also have calmness. And it's not just because you're exhausted because you haven't eaten.
Yeah.
There really is this peace that comes in your body because it's not using all that energy to digest food. Like it's just a beautiful resting season when you can fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, as far as like what we just said, the hormone shifts can be very different per person. When those shifts happen can vary by gender, age, by what you're used to, what your normal resting metabolism is. And for us, when we're dealing with people, we want to know a person. We want to kind of have an idea like, what's your metabolism like? What is your lifestyle like? What is your stress like? What's your cortisol rhythm? What stage of life are you in? Because there's no magic fasting hour for everybody, right?
Right, right. And I
And
think that's important to remember. There is no
mhm,
magic time to do it. There's no magic, um, I guess, space of, or there's no magic amount of time you need to do it. It's like some people can do 11 days and feel great. I remember when you did yours and you really were impressive. I will say that because the beautiful thing about you and me is that because we have such different reactions to everything and we are such different ends of the spectrum, I feel like it makes us both better practitioners
it
because we get
does.
to watch each other and be like, interesting. I don't know that I would have been able to do it that way, but glad to know there's another perspective. And, for some people, just a simple overnight fast. I'm one of these people. It can be difficult. I wake up and I'm ready to eat. So I feel like that's actually, why don't we start there? That's a good place to start, the different types of fasting.
Hmm.
Just, working on a solid 12 to 13 hour overnight fast is a great starting point, especially for people who always want to eat, are always hungry, and feel like you can't ever get enough food. That is a great goal to just start with a dinner, probably no later than 7 p.m. and a breakfast no later than or no earlier than 8 a.m. And that way you just start training your body to go a little bit longer without always eating. Because I know back when I had to do that, and we do have clients like this who do have to eat all the time to be sustained, there's something that's not right in the body. That's not normal.
Right.
There's something driving that response. And so as we're working on why the body's doing that, we also work on stretching the habits of the body's desire for food, for constant food.
Right. And I think too, for our listeners out there, if you're one of those people who has to get up sometime in the middle of the night to have a snack because you do feel like you're bottoming out, and we have people who come to us and they feel like they're just really low blood sugar in the middle of the night, and even though they're wearing a continuous glucose monitor or they check their blood sugar and their blood sugar is normal but they don't feel normal, so they're eating to get through the night, just know that you're going to get through it. You do what you have to do, but that's also a good signal that maybe it's time to work with a professional like us, or find a functional medicine provider in your area that understands this, because it is important for your body to have rest. It is important for your digestive system to rest so that your body can focus all of its rest and repair resources to areas of the body
Right.
that need rest and repair.
And that's a good point. Sometimes you do have to, if you're one of those people in that point in life where you do have to wake up and eat, don't feel bad about it, and don't think I need to suffer through so I can get this 12 to 13 hour overnight fast. No, something's not right, and that's not going to be therapeutic for you to starve yourself until morning if it is
Right.
that bad. But you need to be able to recognize, are you really hungry, or are you just thinking about food?
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to differentiate, because when you can get that long 12-hour, 13-hour break, you're going to have a better circadian rhythm. You're going to have better rest. So then you are going to have better eating habits when you wake up in the morning.
Hmm.
And this goes back to that insulin signaling. You're not getting an appropriate insulin signaling. And so we really want to make sure that we can get you to the point where you can get through the 12 hours. So for everyone else who doesn't have a problem like that, and you think, I want to start somewhere, well, then set yourself a window Aim for a 12-hour window. This is appropriate for almost everyone else out there and is a fabulous place to start for beginners.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once are at that point where you can go 12 hours, which hopefully and I do feel like most people, if you put a clock to it, really can make it 12 hours
Mhm.
without eating, then you can look at time restricted eating. And this really does encompass a wide array of fasts, which we're going to break down a little more, but some of the common, um, I guess, common formats that you would see this in would be like eating windows, right? Where you may see people eat in a 10-hour window, and then they fast the other 14 hours. Or you'll see them fast for 16 hours and eat in an 8-hour window. And the benefits of this are that it improves your metabolic flexibility, right? You've trained your body to adapt to a shorter window. And this can definitely reduce the overall number of calories that you're taking in because, hello, you've cut yourself off. You can't go open the fridge or the pantry. So it is a way to limit yourself if you're a snacker, if you're a compulsive snacker. It does reduce that late night snacking, especially. And this one does tend to be more sustainable for the long term. Now, problems with this can be that people do tend to cut themselves down too much.
I would agree 100% there. Yeah.
I think especially women in perimenopause and menopausal seasons of life, they will tend to forego the precepts of stability, security, predictability. And I feel like I preach this all the time. I feel like a lot of what we hear is based on what I'm going to call gym bro science. And it's really good for young men. But the fact of the matter is, we know women have a lot more going on with our hormones than men. And the idea that this one meal a day or the 16-8 window doesn't always work for women. Sometimes a woman in the middle of life with a lot more stressors, and this is what people need to understand, male or female, if you have a lot of stressors in your life and your cortisol is a little wackadoodle, the last thing you need to do is create another stressor by stressing yourself out with food or the lack thereof. And when you create a scarcity problem because you create it by saying, well, I used to eat 2,500 calories a day, but I'm going to do this 8-hour eating window, and now I'm only going to eat 1,400 calories a day, but I'm burning 500 calories a day at the gym. That may not be ideal for you.
That's more eating disorder level. Just
It
because
is,
you're under eating for the amount of calories you're burning, and people get stuck in this rut that, oh, it's supposed to be good for me. All this, these eating windows, this is the way you're supposed to do it. So I'm not overeating. Well, you're not giving yourself enough time.
And it is this body dysmorphia that I think is created by social media.
Yeah.
We see these pictures and videos, and I'm here to tell you those are lies straight out of the pit of hell. That is not reality. Those people are oftentimes not doing whatever it is they're doing does not match what they are preaching, and whatever it is they are saying they do is not what they are really doing.
Well, and even for people whose goal is to just cut down on calories because they're trying to lose weight, this can be good. However, you still have to make sure that you are able to eat enough food, enough nutrient dense food in that window. Otherwise, it's not successful. But if you can manage that, and as you're saying, and I agree 100% too, it's like this is better suited for men most of the time. But everyone's different. You have to make sure that you can get enough food, get enough protein, and make sure that you are not selling yourself short
Yeah.
with this, self-discipline.
And what are we after? I think there has to
Mm-hmm.
be, and I'm not really trying to go down this rabbit trail, but
Mm-hmm.
indulge me for one moment. With fasting, what is your motivation for fasting? What is the end goal? Is it to be healthier? Is it to fit into a pair of pants or an outfit for some event? Um, what is your goal? Because I'm here to tell you that any fast you do is usually temporary. It will result in water weight loss, and you will regain that water weight loss, most of it, if not all of it. Weight loss is not the end goal of a fast, or it shouldn't be. That's a diet. And those are very different things. Fasts aren't diets. And I think that's a very important differentiation that we need to make.
Yeah. No,
Now,
it's a good point.
yeah, and the time restricted eating is, it can fall into a diet plan for sure, because we call it intermittent fasting, but it could be part of a healthy diet, right? Where you say, look,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to, we used to say, before the whole idea of intermittent fasting, we used to say, don't eat after 6 p.m. And even now, people with GERD or gastroesophageal reflux disease, we tell them, don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed. Why?
Mhm.
Because you'll have less problem. You need to be upright so your food can digest and get past the stomach, get down into your intestines, so that it's not coming back up, causing you problems once you're horizontal in bed. But fasting is a temporary practice, and it is to help your body correct certain processes. It is to, it can be for spiritual reasons. It can be for mental reasons. It can be for stress reduction. It can be for a lot of reasons, right? And even in the Bible, it doesn't say if you fast. It says when you fast,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's always a reason to fast.
Yeah.
So that's just kind
Yeah.
of interesting to me. But the
Well,
time, oh, go ahead.
well, no, just like you're saying, thinking about what the end goal is and knowing that if you're doing it for weight loss, you're not going to lose the weight necessarily. You're improving your body's ability to burn fat and use fat.
Mm-hmm.
You're improving that so that it can be a lifestyle. And intermittent fasting is the best one to do when you've got a busy schedule and you need something that you can just tie into that schedule and keep going on with life.
Yes, because the longer you go without eating, the more likely your body is to go into this autophagy or self-eating phase, right? Where your body consumes problematic things, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
it self-eats, self-digests. And so there's a lot of benefit to be had from intermittent fasting, whether it is 12 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. And the younger you are, the narrower that eating window can be. It
Yeah.
just depends on your stress level, your activity level, your gender, your hormones. There are a lot of variables that need to be taken into consideration when you do that. But it is more sustainable than a lot of the other quote unquote fasts that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But you do need to make sure your protein intake is up. And you should probably not really worry about this if you're doing something really stressful, if you're going through a really stressful season, or if you are not able to sleep or you're being sleep deprived. That's not a good time for this, because it's just going to be harder to maintain. But if you are a person who does not lose weight easily, this could be very helpful. This could be a really good tool, because again, it's those safeguards. It's those I call them the bumpers at the bowling alley.
Mm-hmm.
You can't open the fridge after a certain time. if you tend to be a little bit insulin resistant, like maybe say you've had your fasting insulin checked and you're clinically okay, but your insulin levels are, higher, in functional medicine, we really want to see your insulin levels really low, like maybe under 4. We want you very insulin sensitive. If your levels are getting up there, maybe they're 8 or 9 or 10, you know, this time restricted eating could be really good for you. If you have a really busy schedule or not a lot of control over your schedule, this is going to be a really challenging fast for you as well.
Yeah, but it's a starting point.
It sure
You
is.
you start with the 12 hours, you work towards 14, 16, and then the next level is a full 24-hour fast where you abstain from all food, you just drink water. And this one is really, well, it is next level, but it's still easier to do than thinking about an 11-day, 14-day fast, because you can pick one day a week that you can kind of lay low. You can just rest into this, and you can just do that 1 24-hour window. Or, there's other ways you can play around with how you do this, intermittent fasting. You could have 5 days that you eat regular and then 2 days that are, lower calorie, or you could do 3 days where you eat regular and one day where you reduce your caloric intake. It's just a great way, once again, to give your body a break and a rest. But when you can go 24 hours, that's going to have an even greater impact on your insulin reduction. And it's simple. A lot of fasting can be, but this one is simple once you can work up to it because it's an easy thing to do. You don't have to think about what you're going to eat for a whole 24-hour period. And half of that, you're probably sleeping. So
Yeah.
like, hey, this is easy. Just pick one day. And then you've got an evening on either end of it that's going to help you get through that.
One of the ways that I've done this in the past, if I did a 24-hour fast, I would skip supper for one day, right? So lunch would be my last meal. And then I would be able to eat supper the next day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think
So you
mentally
really
that's
do sleep.
easy. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the easier way to do it. That's easier than even waking up in the morning, being like, okay, I started it with my sleep. Now I'm going to go the whole day, or trying to go all day, all night, and eat the next morning. It is easier to know I've had lunch. I'm just skipping dinner, sleeping half of it off, skipping my meals the next day, and then having dinner. That's a great approach. It really does help you have just kind of a goal in sight, knowing that you've got a meal right around the corner. It's only
And
24 hours.
I think it embraces the truer spirit of fasting, which is to also rest the rest of your body.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But when you're doing this, it's important to make sure that you're not overeating on the non-fast days. Kind of like the windows, you want to make sure you're not
Yeah.
undereating or overeating. But a lot of people can think, okay, I've got the 24 hours coming up. I'm going to just stuff myself the day before. It's actually going to make your fast harder if you do that.
True.
So you just want to make sure that you are easing yourself into that and giving yourself that space without gorging yourself the day before or coming out of that and eating too much, because that can
Yeah.
also hurt you. But this is going to be, great for people who have worked on having some parameters around what they're eating and when they're eating before trying this, because this is, the next level, and then it goes and builds from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you can go 48, 72 hours or
Mm-hmm.
more. And this is more extended fasting. And some people, like me, need
Mm-hmm.
this long to hit ketosis or autophagy and get some positive results. And, the truth of the matter is, this is not ideal for everybody. And I definitely would never recommend that somebody start with this.
Oh my gosh, please
Um,
never.
Never, 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 never.
Not
But
safe.
yeah, this is, and I think really, if you think about the context of everything we've talked about up until this point, we're really kind of talking about water fasting up to now. Now we're going to talk about some different fasting,
Mm-hmm.
but up to this, we're saying if you're going without food, now we're not saying go without water, but we're saying no food. And you can do this and you can train your body. Just because you can do this, though, doesn't mean you're going to feel great. And it
Mhm.
certainly doesn't mean you're not going to be hungry. I don't care how much water you drink, you're going to feel hunger. And a lot of people, I think it's only fair to say, a lot of people are going to have terrible, terrible headaches.
Mhm.
And especially if you drink coffee or you have caffeine in the morning, people who do energy drinks, I generally want them to take a week and come off the caffeine first before you just jump into a fast. Because exactly how bad do you want to feel at
Caffeine withdrawal is no joke.
Now, for me, fortunately, because I've done my 3x4 genetic tests, and because it is my lived experience, I'm a very fast metabolizer of caffeine. So I can have coffee. It's nighttime. I could drink coffee now and still go to bed in an hour. I'm fine. It does not keep me up. It does not bother me. I can drink 1 cup, 5 cups, but I I don't think everybody's that way. And I've had a caffeine headache before, but I don't get them real bad. You do not want a caffeine headache and a hunger headache all together at one time.
And potential dehydration. You're fasting, and some people don't drink enough water.
Most people do not drink enough
No.
water. This is so true. This is so true. So it's really important to plan these things out. Don't wake up one day and go, I'm going to fast. And then just, yeah, it's not practical for most people. And it's definitely not something that you do routinely as a beginner. It is something anyone can do for the most part. But I do recommend not, it's not that you need medical supervision, but just talk to somebody who's done it before. Or if you're on medication or you have outstanding health issues, just get some advice
Get
before you.
clinical guidance. That's what
Yeah.
I like to say. You don't have to go away somewhere to do this. You can live your life and do it. But some people are, you're going to have to take things into consideration like
Mhm.
medication, or can you drive while you're fasting? Some
Yeah.
people can, some people can't. So you've got to kind of work through those things to know where do you need to plan ahead for that
Yeah.
so you can do it the
Absolutely.
safest way possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, it's you gotta know what you're doing, and when you get to that point, I will give you a high five, but please do it carefully and slowly. And that's where I think some of the fast mimicking diets, or I say diets, I'm sorry, fasting, the fast mimicking or partial fasts are a
Judge much.
good, they're a good place to start. If you are one of those people, you say, I don't know about these time restricted eatings. I don't know about this full out fasting, but you can achieve some similar goals if you do fast mimicking. And that's where you do a very low calorie, nutrient controlled protocol for a short amount of time. And you're limiting the proteins that you're eating. You're limiting the carbs. You're limiting everything. But this allows you to get some of that metabolic benefit with reduced risk. And it's easier to comply with because you do still get to eat. You're just stopping before you're full. So,
And this is really helpful. So there's a Dr. Walter Longo. He wrote the longevity diet, fasting, cancer. He's done all this work with the fasting mimicking diets. And, when you look at cancer as a metabolic disease and how you can fast and really improve the condition, this is where a lot of the really good research has been done. And this is not, we lovingly and jokingly say cheater fasts, but it's not. It's
right.
not
Because you
because
are going to be hungry on this still.
and you're going to be hungry, but it promotes longevity.
Yeah.
You are promoting all of those same principles for sure.
Yeah. And that's where I think this can often be a stepping stone to full out fasting because you can do this more often. This is something you can incorporate into your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a really, Dr. Longo's Company is called Prolon. And you can see our show notes for a link to our full script dispensary where we'll link to the Prolon fasting mimicking program. If you want to try a 5-day fasting mimicking program, if you've never fasted before, this is a really good way to introduce your body to it, don't you think?
I think so, because it makes you feel like you've got the tools. You don't have to figure it out. I mean, you've got it right there. They tell you what to eat when. And
Mm-hmm.
then you feel like, okay, I just did something hard. Now maybe I can do something harder.
The only thing not included is water.
You have to go fetch your own water.
Darn. Yes. And then, okay, so let's talk about some of the liquid based fasting approaches because
Mhm.
wow, there's so many things. There are so many places you can go. There are untold numbers of books and documentaries and I mean, you name it, right? We're in the age of
Mhm.
information. So there's juice fasting. And this is one where I feel like you and I have both done so much,
Mhm.
so much work.
Yes.
Now, this is probably the first fast that I ever did was a juice fast.
Mhm.
And I don't even remember what kind of, I know I did orange juices that were like carrot and apple.
Mhm.
And then I did the green juices that had the cucumbers and the spinach and the celery.
Mhm.
But I remember that I was really not that hungry. And I've not really been a sweets person too much. But then I got into these, there are like the juice diet programs you can buy where you do like 6 juices a day. And some of them are nut milks, I think, that kind of fill you up. So I don't know that there's one that's good or bad or otherwise, but there are great juice diet programs that you can pre-purchase, but I love the reds, the greens, and the oranges.
Mhm.
And I like mixing them up and I like doing them for 7 days.
Well, and because this is more of a cleanse almost. You're
Yeah.
you're flooding your system with nutrients that it doesn't have to work very hard to digest. You're
Mm-hmm.
giving the digestive system a break, but you're getting all this goodness, all the antioxidants. But I will say, when you're doing a juice fast, I think people go wrong often by doing fruit juice fasts. There might be some vegetables, but how many fruits are also in it? And that's where you want to be careful because you can have a successful juice fast if you make sure there's mostly vegetables in it. Otherwise, you're going to experience blood sugar swings like nobody's business. And when it's done right, you can get that rest and repair that you're going for in a fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's just like we tell people, we don't want you to drink soda. Why? Well, aside from the carbonation and all
Mhm.
the crap in it, it's the sugar. And the same thing can be said of orange juice and apple juice. You wouldn't eat 15 apples or 15 oranges, right? And the amount of sugar in a juice, you have to be really careful because you're just spiking your blood sugar. You're
Mhm.
causing this huge insulin surge. And if you already have blood sugar dysregulation, doing a juice fast with a whole bunch of sugar in it is not going to help you because a juice fast does not have fiber. This isn't a smoothie, right? Smoothies, you're just masticating all the whole food. So you have the fiber, and that's not what this is. And I think it's important too to point out that smoothies aren't that's not a fast
A
necessarily.
calorie restriction
It's more like
or
an elimination diet.
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, with a juice fast, you're just taking the nutrition, but you're still giving your digestive system a break because there's no fiber for your system to have to work on. And this is an important part like the Gerson diet For cancer, this is a really important component of that, but you still have to be very, very careful with this. And again, if you don't know your body, if you're not sure if this is right for you, be careful. If you're not sure you want to fast and you've never really tried a fresh juice, go to Whole Foods or go to your local health food store and just try one because wow, you're in for a surprise, people. I am telling you, get a beet juice with some ginger in it and an orange and it'll knock your socks off. It's just amazing. They're so good. But yeah, just pay attention to what your body is telling you when you do any big diet change and talk to your provider or your practitioner about what your goals are. And for me, during a season of stress, I like a juice fast because it does calm me down.
But that's,
And the season matters, right?
yeah.
Right now, I had Elena, she is my thermostat queen because she can make it stay warm. January, it's cold.
It's cold.
And she's got the temperature hiked up in here. I would not be doing a juice fast in January. Not here. No, it's too cold.
And that's where everyone is different because once again, this is where we're totally different. I just did a juice fast to start the new year, but I could tolerate it. And I did a vegetable juice fast with minimal fruit. When you get the cleansing juices with celery and cucumber, parsley, ginger, lemon, it's just a great flush to the system. But I will say I did have my heater on a lot in those 3 days because this is not the best time of year, but you got to do when it works for your schedule. Yeah. And thank goodness we have heaters.
Yeah, this is true. I usually keep my juice fast for the warmer months, but yeah, bone broth. This is the time to bone broth fast.
This is the time to do a broth fast. And this is my favorite. Because I love what water fasting does, but once again, not always as convenient or sustainable. Bone broth fasting is much more sustainable. You're getting to drink yummy, warm broth that's full of protein, that's full of minerals, that's full of sodium. And there's minimal insulin stimulation compared to the juicing. So you're supported with hydration and electrolytes while giving your digestive system a rest. And I love it because you get to heal your gut. Not only do you give your gut a rest, you're actually healing it with the nutrients in bone broth. I mean, how often, Sharon, do we have someone come in with chronic digestive issues, with colitis or diverticulitis, and we say, hey, I think it's time to start drinking some bone broth because it's a tonic to an inflamed system.
It really is.
And it's just yummy.
Yeah. Glutamine is one of, the main amino acids, and it helps in bone broth and collagen. It helps to proliferate new cell growth within the gastrointestinal system. Now, if you have cancer, the last thing you want to do is proliferate new cell growth, right? But if that's not your problem, if you do have issues, history of ulcers, if you have inflammation, any itis, irritations, bone broth is going to be very soothing. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the bone broth that you find in the stores is not going to be that restorative. Your best bet is to make it yourself. And this is easier than you might think. If you own a pressure cooker, it's really quick and easy to do.
Or a crock pot.
Or a crock pot. Crock pots are better. For us, anytime we process a cow, or harvest a beef, got to say it right. We get the knuckle bones, and they're huge. They're like the size of my head, but we get about 6 to 8 gallons of bone broth out of that. And a lot of times you can just go buy oxtail or marrow bones. And if you roast them first in your oven and then put them in a pot of water and boil them and maybe put a little vinegar in there, the vinegar helps to draw out all the good stuff from the bones. And it may be very thick and gelatinous when you're done, but that's good. That's the good stuff. You can water it down to your taste. You can season it with whatever herbs and seasonings suit your flavor profile. But if you have a cup of that 3 times a day or more during a fast, that's great. You can do beef, you can do chicken, you can do turkey, some people do pork. I don't know how I feel about that. Or
Yeah.
fish. Still not.
That should be a soup. I don't know that I want to sip that on a fast.
I know. I'm more like
But
a beef or chicken
right.
girl.
But hey, you're welcome to try it, listeners. You are welcome to try
Let us know how it goes.
it.
Yeah. That's a great thing to do. And even now, like I love the Weston A. Price Foundation, and in their nourishing traditions, a lot of their formulas and baby food principles really embrace using organ meats and bone broth based recipes for introducing food to babies first instead of rice cereal. Like when I was raising my babies, it was all grain based that you did first. And now we've completely gotten away from that, which is good considering how much arsenic is in the rice,
Exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
other things.
Right. No, I love that. Instead, we're introducing minerals and nutrients so the babies can start desiring that, because that is why it's so satisfying to drink bone broth.
Yeah,
And that's where, I think we'd call this a supportive fast, not a pure fast if you're doing the bone broth, but the cells are going to be thoroughly nourished. And as you consume that, the fat and the protein, the cells can start releasing toxins.
this is a really good fast to consider if you're sick.
Mm-hmm.
I think for people, whether you are ill with the flu, if you are in, a diverticulitis, flare, if you are in an IBS flare, if you are having really bad gastrointestinal pain, this is a good fast. And I will say fast because you are intentionally excluding everything else.
Right. Fiber and
Mhm.
carbs, sugars.
Mhm. Yeah. And keep it pure.
Yeah.
Keep it clear, thin it down, drink lots of water, use lots of salt. So you're supporting liver and, bile thinning. But this is a very restorative, to me, a very healing broth
That
or
is,
fast, excuse
yes, that is going to be great for most individuals. I guess the word of caution would be if you don't have a gallbladder or you have gallbladder issues, that's when you need to consult a professional so we
Yeah,
can help you and guide you through it. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but we want to be very careful in how we approach this so you don't set yourself back.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, now let's go off the deep end.
Oh, I think I know where you're going. Let's
All
go.
right. So the dry fast. So a dry fast is extreme. Now, I'd kind of heard of this, but then several years ago, there's this book that came out, and it's called Starving to Heal in Siberia. And it was about this professor. She had chronic Lyme. I think she had neural Lyme. And she found this doctor in Siberia who he would medically supervise dry fasts. And a dry fast is where you do not eat, you do not drink, you do not bathe, you do not rinse your mouth, you do not brush your teeth, you are dry for extended periods of time. Now technically you should die, right? You shouldn't be able to do this for 9 days, 10 days, 11 days. And I would recommend read the book. Maybe we can link to it in the Audibles or
Read
something.
before you try, and then maybe still don't try it. But this one is interesting. It's intriguing.
Do not go try this on your own. Now, I have a client who went and did this. And so I was so excited to meet her. And she was telling me what she did. And I was like, oh, I read this book. And she was so excited that I knew what she'd done. Because I think she was like, everyone thinks I'm a freak. Like, you're my hero.
No, hearing her story made me accept that, okay, maybe this really could work for some people, but I'm going to say hands down, this is not going to work for most people. But she had a great experience with it.
Well, there's a lot to it. It's not just like dry fasting. There's so much to the system, that he did. But you do have to have a lot of body work, and you go on like this 3 mile hike every day. It's crazy, but you have to train your body for it. Now there is some rapid dehydration, and the lady in the book, like, she cured herself of Lyme disease.
Hey,
But so why? How does this happen? Well, your body goes into autophagy, right? Where it's auto digesting. So you are actually auto digesting, harm pathogenic materials.
right.
So
You're not
you're
digesting yourself from the inside out. Your
right.
body's deep cleaning.
Right, right. Deep cleaning. That's a good word for it. Now, there are a lot of things that can go wrong with this,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are a lot of things that have to be monitored because people who do this are generally very, very ill. But this is an amazing thing. And if you think about it, like, I can think even I did a 14-day water fast, and I was very foolhardy when I did it because I did not rest. I continued to work.
Sharon, you didn't rest? No,
No,
this is new information.
no, I kept
I,
working.
I know. You always do.
My husband made me quit when I tried to stand up and I like fell over. Like, you're done. I'm calling it. You're fired. You're done. You can't even stand up anymore. But it was my fault. I wanted to do 21 days and I just couldn't because I had too much going. I should have
Yeah.
rested, but I was
Yeah.
glad I got my 14 in. But anyway, so with the dry fasting, and I remember with my 14-day fast, there were 24 hours I didn't want any water.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that
didn't drink.
happens.
And I think for people out there, if you've ever done an extended fast, you can probably point to a day where you were like, no, I
Yep.
don't think I want anything. And then when you're attuned to your body, there will be times. Now, I know there are some of you listeners out there going, yeah, I never want water. That's autophagy. I'm just self-digesting. No, shut up. Shut
This
up.
does
Shut up.
not
Shut up.
apply. This is not the same instance.
It is not the same thing. You liars. The- there's a difference, right?
Mhm.
But you do, like, this doctor, he made you train up. I think you had to train yourself to 3 days of dry fasting before you ever like went to his clinic. But anyway, Starving to Heal in Siberia. It's an amazing book. It's a great story. And it's on Audibles. So when I say I read books, I actually listen to them on Audibles. But anyway, there are a lot of claims, made with dry fasting. Um, who knows? The true evidence is a little bit limited. It's hard to find a lot of information about it. Nobody really wants to admit they do it or advocate
Or
for
no
it.
one wants to do it.
Yeah, and there are risks of dehydration. Hello, you're
Yeah.
gonna be dehydrated because you're not even bathing. Like, you don't rinse your mouth. So can you imagine how bad you smell and what your breath and your tongue and all the things, and your blood pressure is not stable, and you have to be really careful. And you had to go to Siberia to do it in the summertime. I mean, you can't do this in Arizona, right?
No. So really, I
So
mean, this one isn't going to be for most people. It's just, it is fun to mention and worth mentioning because it is a thing. If you go research fasting, dry fasting does come up.
and if you are critically ill, and there, like this lady, there were no other options for her.
Yeah,
Nobody had answers for her.
I'm sure she tried all the other fasts first. I
Mhm.
mean, you have to get to the point of saying, I'm going to do something this extreme. But
Mhm.
it, I mean, there are success stories. Just listeners, please don't try it. Once again, don't try
Remember,
this without.
educational entertainment.
No,
Or get our producer to put like
big disclaimer.
neon signs. Yes.
Oh,
Anyway, but this, dry fasting, especially like if you have kidney disease or adrenal dysfunction, I mean, you got to be real careful. You better have an expert on your team. So
yeah,
you got
yeah.
to be real careful. But anyway, There
Yeah.
you go.
I mean, hey,
But
once
how do
again,
you know? So these
right.
are just some of the fasts, right? Like these are our favorites. They're ones we're familiar, except for the dry fasting, because
We
neither
just
one of
know a
us
little bit about, but no, we
haven't.
have not done that. We have not crossed into that territory.
But
Um,
but but which one do you pick?
yeah, and you've got to start somewhere. That's the thing,
Mhm.
and that's where I feel like Sharon, you and I do a pretty good job of understanding where people are at, and we try to guide all of our clients. If you want to fast, we'll help you get to a point where you can. But when
Mhm.
you compare the different types, just a little recap for our listeners. The most sustainable type is going to be the overnight fasting or time restricted
Mhm.
eating. That's just the easiest to do. The gentlest option for fasting, if you want something more intense, is going to be a bone broth fast. And then,
Or the fasting mimicking.
yeah, or the fasting mimicking, because,
Yeah.
yeah, you just tie that into your routine and keep going. And the most problematic one can be the juice fasting for blood sugar. Doesn't always have to be, but it can be.
Mhm.
I think we established that dry fasting is the highest risk one. That one's
For
pretty
sure.
obvious, I hope. And then water fasting is going to provide the deepest healing and rest. I mean, other than some of the evidence with dry fasting, but aside from that, the way we typically look at fasting, you are going to get the most from just an entire rest from consuming anything but hydration.
Well, and there are even some people who would argue that, and that's the thing, to our listeners, there are going to be people who may disagree with us, and they're allowed to
Always.
disagree, right?
Yeah.
That's why this is called the practice. It's a practice of
Mhm.
medicine. Food is medicine. But what's medicine for me may not be medicine for you. And Elena and I have had very different experiences with fasting. We could both
Mhm.
do the same fast and feel very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going to be different for you, but that's why it's important to have people working with you who listen to you, who understand your lifestyle, who understand your needs and your issues, and are going to work with you to help you really learn the art of fasting and the practice, because it is a practice, but it's part art.
Yeah, it is. And it's skill too, just learning how to use all the tools to get to that work of
Yeah.
art.
And I just want to give a few cautions. I do generally um, caution people away. Hey, maybe not right now. To pregnant and of course breastfeeding women. I don't want you. This is not the time
Mm-mm.
for
No.
fasting. If you need an elimination diet, that's different. If we need to do some sort of cleanse, that's different. A fast, though, there is a time to do it. And pregnancy and breastfeeding are not the time to do it. If you have a history of disordered eating, I would be very, very leery of fasting. I want to really check in and see where you are in your headspace and what your relationship with food is and where your stress level is. Because the last thing we want to do with fasting is worsen your relationship with food, create a new obstacle in your relationship with food, or be a problem. And then if you do have really significant adrenal or thyroid dysfunction, or you're unstable in your adrenal or thyroid dysfunction, fasting's probably going to be the timing of your fasting needs to be really considered. And if you're significantly underweight, it really needs to be reconsidered. This is not something to take lightly or to undertake on your own without good advice. Um, Also, if you have gout or kidney stones, if you don't sleep, if you don't drink water, but you don't dry fast, or if you're just a high stress person, what do we call them, Elena? Stress carriers,
Yeah.
stress causers, like me. um, you know, the type of fast, it's not that you can't fast, but the type of fast and how you do it, how long you do it, which one you do, all of that is going to matter. And this may sound like it's real easy for us to sit here and say this, and you may go, it's just food. Who cares? It's no big deal. I can do anything. But that's not necessarily the case. And the last thing you want to do is make your health worse by pursuing something that theoretically should improve your health. So getting professional advice and being honest with yourself about what your limitations are, what your capability, what your capacity is to fast. And then, setting aside the time. I think
Right.
being real about that, because how much time did you take to really give for this fast you just did,
No, I
Elena?
mean, I took all my time off. I did nothing but rest while I was doing it because I wanted the whole body experience of restoration. I wanted the nervous system to have a break. I didn't want to be running from here to there dealing with traffic and trying to go while doing a fast. That wouldn't have been therapeutic.
Yeah.
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 So, the way that, we'd encourage any of our listeners to approach this is, talk to professionals to understand where you should start if you aren't sure, because what we're always going to look at and consider is blood sugar stability. Where are you at on that scale? Where are your hormones? Are they balanced enough to get a therapeutic effect from this, or are they going to be stressed more? Because your stress load is going to have a huge impact on it. Like we were saying, and is fasting going to add to that stress? Just simply trying to figure out how to not eat. If you don't have the time to rest with it, is it going to create more stress? We want to look at that. We want to make sure that you're getting enough nutrition going into a fast and coming out of a fast. So as we do that, we're going to pair that with proper protein intake, electrolyte support. That's a big one. And then just make sure you've got the tools to regulate your nervous system. Because the goal is to have metabolic resilience, not deprivation or starvation. Like that's entirely different from fasting. There are seasons for feasting and fasting, and we want to make sure that when we're doing the fasting, you're getting the whole full healing effect from it.
Right. So embracing a good philosophy and going into it with good perspective and understanding that longer is not always better. You know, having your goal in mind and an achievable goal at that
Mm-hmm.
is really important. Um, and I think too, understanding that just because you're hungry doesn't mean that you're burning fat.
Yeah.
That's not always true. And so we want to have a good handle on satiety or the different kinds of hunger that we feel. Do we feel the hunger in our mouth or the hunger in our belly, and what the different kinds of hunger mean? Are we thirsty or are we hungry?
Mm.
All of that. But I think understanding too that fasting is not automatically going to fix a poor diet. It's a good launch pad. It's a good stepping stone, but it is not an automatic fix. It doesn't change your taste overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And fasting is absolutely not for everybody all the time.
Right. It's
So,
not. It's not. Um, so that's where you really want to evaluate and see where should you push yourself, where should you not. And if you want to start something and you think, what's the first baby step that I can do to work towards that goal? I'd say consistent dinner time.
oh, yeah.
Like that right there is a game changer. If you don't have a set schedule for your meals, I mean, we can talk about all your meals, but I'm talking about dinner specifically because that determines the length of the fast you're going to get while you're sleeping at night. So
Mhm.
start with that. And then if you want to go to a next step, just try doing a 3-day liquid fast of pureed foods where you don't think too much about, okay, this juice or that broth, whatever. You make sure everything you consume is pureed. So you're getting all the proteins and the carbs and the fiber, but you're just adjusting how you eat it. So like a smoothie fast, something like that. And you just want to focus on getting your protein, getting your hydration, getting your sleep. As you have those habits in place, it's easier to do these restrictive practices. But, remember, if fasting is going to increase anxiety, it's not worth it. Okay. That's not what this is about. It's not a competition. I mean, Sharon, you and I get to have fun kind of seeing how long do you go? How long do I go? But it's not a competition. I think the best thing about fasting, if you want to just have the right mindset, is get excited about doing the hard things.
Mm-hmm.
We have things so easy and convenient in this modern world that we live in. And we just don't want to do the hard things. But you feel really good about yourself when you can do it in a healthy manner, with the right parameters, the right goals, the right balance. It's good for us to do the hard things. So
Absolutely.
try it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what it looks like compared to somebody else. Like I remember when I let a friend from high school track talk me into doing my first and only half marathon in my 40s. And I did it and I trained for it. But you know what? One of my dear friends, she's an Ironman athlete. And she's so sweet. She never laughed at me. She knew she was there cheering me on.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't laugh at my time because she knew for me that was my best. I mean, I for that. It was laughable.
But you weren't doing it to compete.
In the front half.
You weren't there to compete. You were there to prove to yourself what you could do. And I feel like
it was me besting myself.
Right. And people treat a lot of athletic things like that. And they forget that you can have that same resilience and training in how you treat your body with what you're feeding it.
That's right. Health can be the same thing. You train for it. And with fasts, each one can be better and better. And it may be different every time.
And there might be times, you talk to anyone who does marathons or triathlons, there are people all the time who can't finish. DNF, did not finish. That can happen with fasting too. So don't be disheartened. Just keep trying.
That's right. That's right. And two, I think it's worth mentioning, especially for women, where you are in your cycle is going to make a difference on how you feel when you fast. So, bear that in mind. But anyway, just remember, in closing here, that fasting is one of many tools, but it's one we haven't talked about. And so I'm so glad we got to have this conversation about fasting. But just remember, no matter what kind of fast you consider or undertake, whatever you do, it should support your body's function. It should support your physiology, not fight against it. And, personalized care for your body, for your health issues will always outperform some pre-boxed up protocol. Do this because it worked for me, every time. Personalized care is where it's at. So if you're curious whether fasting is appropriate for you, talk to somebody and, talk to us. Let us evaluate you and design a plan that's going to work with your physiology. But thank you again for tuning in to visit with Elena and I today. We hope this episode really resonates with you and that you can use this information to make better decisions towards your health and wellness. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and follow us on Rumble, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram for more wellness content. And if you'd like to book a consultation with one of our practitioners, just visit k6wellness.com to learn more or schedule a free discovery call. We're located in Dallas, Texas, but we work with people all over the world. Until next time, take care, be well, and as always, your health is worth fighting for.